My husband brought divorce papers to my father's funeral. He made me sign them at the reception. He said, "Your dad would want you to do the right thing." My family watched in shock. I signed. He walked out with his girlfriend. 2 days later, he found out what else I had signed that day. At the lawyer's office, before the funeral, I was standing next to my father's casket when my husband handed me the divorce papers. Not at home. Not in private. Right there in the church reception hall, surrounded by people who had come to say goodbye to my dad. The flowers from the service were still fresh. My father had been gone less than 6 hours. My hands were already shaking. I had just finished signing the guest book, hugging relatives, accepting condolences, and trying not to fall apart. Before I go on, thank you for being here. If you believe in protecting yourself from financial abuse and building real security, please consider subscribing. It's free, and it helps us reach more women who need this. Now, here's what happened next. Brian walked toward me with a man in an expensive suit. "Jessica, this is my attorney, Derek Phillips," Brian said. "We need you to sign something." I stared at the manila folder in Brian's hands. Then I looked at his face. Calm. Almost kind. Around us, my father's friends and coworkers were starting to notice something was wrong. My voice came out shaky. "You're doing this here? Your dad would want you to do the right thing," Brian said, loud enough for others to hear. "Be honest about our marriage. Sign these so we can both move on." The room went quiet. My aunt gasped. My father's best friend stepped forward, then stopped. Everyone was watching me, waiting to see what I would do. I looked down at the papers. Divorce petition. My name listed as the respondent. Brian as the petitioner. Pages of legal language about irreconcilable differences and dividing assets. "You're serving me divorce papers at my father's funeral," I said. "I'm doing this now because it has to be done," Brian replied. "Before things get complicated with the estate, your dad would understand. He'd want you to be practical." Something about the way he said it felt wrong. The fake sympathy. The timing. The way he used my father to pressure me. And that's when I thought about the meeting Brian didn't know about. The meeting I had earlier that morning. 2 hours before my dad's service. At a lawyer's office. The meeting where I learned everything. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll sign." What Brian didn't know was what else I had already signed that day. What I had learned. What my father had put into motion in the final 72 hours of his life. He didn't know that the paperwork from that morning had already destroyed him. Let me go back. Let me explain how I got here. How my father died at 72. How my husband served me divorce papers over my father's casket. How my entire life fell apart and rebuilt itself in 1 week. It started 3 days earlier, on a Monday morning that felt exactly like every other Monday for the past 7 years. I stood in the kitchen at 5:30 a.m., making coffee in the same chipped coffee pot Brian and I had used since we got married. The machine gurgled and dripped, filling the house with a smell that should have been comforting, but just felt tired. Another early shift. Another day of waking up before my husband. I had a real job. Brian had networking meetings. Brian was still asleep upstairs. Lately, he slept later and later, saying his investor calls ran late at night. I had stopped questioning it. Questions led to arguments, and arguments always ended with me feeling like I didn't understand his vision. I worked at Memorial Hospital as a medical billing specialist. That meant sitting in a basement cubicle, processing insurance claims for people I would never meet. The job paid enough to cover rent, groceries, utilities, and whatever Brian's latest business idea needed. He always had a new idea, a new pitch, a new reason why this one would finally work. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Breakfast Thursday. Need to talk to you about something important." I frowned. Dad and I always did breakfast on Saturdays. Thursday was unusual, and important wasn't a word he used lightly. I texted back, "Everything okay?" The typing dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "We'll explain Thursday. 7 a.m. at Pete's. Love you, kiddo." My stomach tightened. Dad was 72. Still working as an electrician. still climbing ladders and traveling for jobs. I worried about him all the time, especially since my mom died when I was 16. He was all I had left. Him and Brian. And lately, Brian felt like a stranger. Brian came downstairs at 6:15, hair messy, wearing the clothes he had slept in on the couch. He said he'd come home at midnight from another late networking meeting. He kissed my forehead without really looking at me. Morning. Morning. Coffee's ready. Can't stay. Running late. He grabbed his keys and his phone. Late for what? I asked. It's 6:15. Breakfast meeting with an investor. This one's different, Jess. This one's real. I had heard that sentence at least 50 times. Brian, we need to talk about the bills later. Promise. This meeting could change everything. The door closed behind him. I stood there holding my coffee, staring at the stack of red-stamped envelopes on the counter. Past due. Final notice. Collections warning. Then I noticed something else. His cologne. The expensive one he said was too special for everyday use. He wore it to a 6:30 a.m. breakfast meeting. That detail stayed with me all day. During my commute. Through 8 hours in my cubicle between Sharon, who talked nonstop about her grandkids, and Lisa, who complained about her ex-husband. During lunch in my car, eating a sandwich because I couldn't afford the cafeteria. Around 3 p.m., I opened my personal email. That's when I saw it. Subject line, your Capital Reserve Platinum Card Statement. I had never heard of that card. Never applied for it. Never used it. My hands went cold. The account was opened 6 months ago. Balance, $8,400. The charges told a story I didn't want to see. Restaurants I'd never been to. Hotels. Jewelry stores. All in my name. Using my social security number. Sharon leaned over the cubicle wall. You okay? You look pale. I closed my laptop. Just tired. You work too hard. Take a day off. I couldn't afford a day off. Not with Brian's ideas draining our money. And now this. During my break, I called the credit card company for my car. The representative was polite and useless. The account was opened in person, she said. Application includes your signature and correct security answers. What security questions? Mother's maiden name. City you were born in. First pet. Brian knew all of that. He knew everything about me. I didn't open this account, I said. I need to dispute it. You'll need to file a police report for identity theft first. I sat in my car, staring at the hospital, watching people live normal lives, and felt something inside me finally crack. My phone rang. Hey kiddo, Dad said. About Thursday. Can we move it to tomorrow morning? Dad, what's going on? Nothing to worry about. Just paperwork. Estate stuff. Are you sick? No. Just trying to be responsible. Then he added, don't tell Brian. That stopped me. Why? Just don't. Please trust me. He hung up. I drove home in a fog. The credit card. Brian's late nights. The cologne. Dad's warning. When I walked inside, Brian was on the couch with his laptop and phone. He ended the call when he saw me. Just an investor, he said quickly. I looked around our living room. Second-hand furniture. Walls we couldn't paint. Nothing permanent. I had wanted to buy a house years ago. Brian always said we should wait. Brian, I said, I need to ask you something. Can it wait? No. Do you know anything about a Capital Reserve credit card in my name? His face changed for half a second. Then he smiled. What? Why would I? Because someone used my information. And there's $8,400 in charges. That's identity theft, he said. We should file a police report. The card was open in person. With answers only you or I would know. Jess, he said, are you accusing me? I'm asking you a direct question. He stepped closer and put his hands on my shoulders. The touch didn't feel comforting. It felt controlling. You've been really stressed lately, he said. Working long hours. Worrying about money. Is it possible you opened the card and forgot? Maybe one of those nights you couldn't sleep. One word flashed clearly in my mind. Gaslighting. I stepped back, out of his reach. I didn't open it, Brian. Okay, he said quickly, holding up his hands like I was being dramatic. I believe you. We'll figure it out. Then he glanced at his phone. But right now I really can't miss this call. It's with the Silicon Valley guy. The one who could actually fund everything. Can we talk about this tonight? He grabbed his keys, his laptop, his phone. I'll be at the coffee shop. Better Wi-Fi. The door closed behind him. I stood alone in our rented house, surrounded by temporary furniture, unpaid bills, and the growing certainty that my husband was lying to me about everything.
I didn't sleep that night.
I stared at the ceiling, listening to Brian come home at 11:30 p.m., listening to him change in the dark, listening to him fall asleep while I replayed every small lie that had led to this moment. Thursday morning, I met Dad at Pete's Breakfast Corner at 7 a.m. The diner was the same place we'd gone since I was a kid. Red vinyl booths, white ceramic mugs, coffee that never tasted great but always felt familiar. The waitresses had worked there for decades and knew everyone's orders. Dad was already there, sitting in our usual booth by the window. He looked different. Smaller somehow. Older than he had just a week before. You look tired, Dad, I said. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Could say the same about you, kiddo. He ordered the lumberjack special. I ordered eggs and toast I barely touched. After the waitress left, Dad pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. I need you to go somewhere this morning before work, he said, sliding it across the table. Inside was a business card. Eleanor Hartwell, estate attorney. Dad, what's going on? His jaw tightened. It was the same look he had when Mom was sick, when he was trying to stay strong for me. I'm updating paperwork. My will. Some properties. Eleanor's been my attorney for years. She needs you to sign a few things. What properties? He waved it off. Some rentals I picked up over the years. Union benefits. Retirement stuff. Nothing exciting. He paused. Her office is downtown. 9 a.m. It's close to the hospital. Can't this wait until the weekend?
No.
The word came out sharp. Then he softened. Please, Jess. I need you there this morning. It's important. Something in his voice made me agree. We finished breakfast mostly in silence. He paid like always and walked me to my car. He hugged me longer than usual. Tighter. Whatever happens, he said, remember I've always got your back. Always have. Always will. Dad, I said, you're scaring me. Don't be scared, he said quietly. Just be smart. And remember I love you. He got into his truck and drove away. I sat in my car, staring at the business card, wondering why his hug felt like goodbye. Eleanor Hartwell's office was in an old brick building downtown with brass nameplates and wood-paneled elevators. The receptionist led me to a conference room with dark furniture and shelves full of law books. Eleanor was about 55, with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back neatly. She closed the door and sat across from me. Your father called me Monday evening, she said. He said it was urgent. Life or death urgent. My stomach dropped. Is my dad sick? Not in the way you're thinking. She opened a thick folder. Jessica, what I'm about to tell you is a lot. I need you to listen carefully. She spread documents across the table. Property deeds. Bank statements. Trust papers. Your father owns 12 rental properties across 3 cities. He's been buying them for 40 years. Current value is about $4.2 million. Monthly rental income, after expenses, is around $18,000. Total estate value is just over $5 million. The room spun. That's impossible. Dad's an electrician. He's an electrician who invested every extra dollar he made. He lived modestly on purpose. He didn't want attention. She pulled out another document. Monday afternoon, your father came here very upset. He showed me a text message. A photo of your husband with another woman. My chest tightened. He said, that man married my daughter for money she doesn't even know exists. Brian was cheating. Dad had proof. Dad had known before I did. Your father spent the last 3 days restructuring his entire estate, Eleanor continued. He created an irrevocable trust. You are the sole beneficiary. She pointed to the papers. All 12 properties. All income, life insurance, pension, savings. Everything is now in the trust. She looked me in the eye. The trust specifically excludes spousal claims. No matter what, divorce, debt, lawsuits, your husband has no legal claim to any of it. I shook my head. Why the rush? Eleanor's expression softened. Because your father knew what was coming. He said your husband would try to serve you divorce papers soon, probably when you were emotional and vulnerable. She handed me a sealed envelope with my name written in Dad's handwriting. He made me promise to give you this. He also recorded video testimony explaining his mental state and his reasons. He was very careful. My hands trembled as I took the envelope. When was everything finalized? I asked. Yesterday. Wednesday at 3 p.m. He paid my retainer, signed the final papers, and recorded his statement. She paused. He looked relieved, like he'd finally set something heavy down. When he left, he said, "Now I can rest."
My phone rang.
Brian. I couldn't move. Eleanor reached across the table. Jessica, I got a call this morning from the sheriff's department. Your father had a massive heart attack in his sleep last night. I stopped breathing. They couldn't revive him. I'm so sorry. The room faded. My father was gone. And somehow, in his final 72 hours, he had known what Brian was doing. Known exactly how to protect me. That's how I ended up standing next to my father's casket, watching my husband hand me divorce papers in front of everyone. Brian's attorney, Derek Phillips, led us upstairs to a small Sunday school classroom. Children's drawings covered the walls. Tiny chairs were stacked in the corner. He laid the papers out on a child-sized table. "Mrs. Morrison," he said, "I represent your husband. Given the circumstances, he's asked me to present these documents today." Divorce petition. Oregon. Brian as petitioner. Me as respondent. Faces appeared at the classroom window. My aunt. Dad's friends. Neighbors. You want me to sign this while my father's body is downstairs? I asked. Brian stepped closer, voice soft. Jess, I know the timing is awful, but your dad would want honesty. We've been unhappy for years. Derek cleared his throat. There's an easy way and a hard way. Easy is uncontested. You sign today. Assets divided equally. Clean and fast. And the hard way? I asked. Contested divorce. Years of legal battles. Your father's estate frozen. Expensive. Stressful. Brian leaned in. I don't want to hurt you. Sign this. We both move on. Your dad was practical. He'd understand. I thought about Eleanor's office. About what I'd signed that morning. About what Brian didn't know. Okay, I whispered. Where do I sign? Relief spread across Brian's face. Brian left the church 10 minutes later. He didn't look back. His girlfriend was waiting outside in a silver SUV. I saw them through the stained glass windows. She leaned over and kissed his cheek. He laughed. They drove away while my father's casket was still downstairs. I stayed. I stood there until my legs started shaking and my aunt wrapped her arms around me. People whispered. Some cried. Some looked furious. No one said, "Are you okay?" because the answer was too obvious. I went home alone that night. Brian didn't come back. His things were gone by morning. Clothes, laptop, documents. He'd planned it carefully. I found one thing he forgot, a half-empty bottle of that expensive cologne on the bathroom sink. I slept on the couch. The house felt hollow without him, but not lonely. Just quiet, like the silence after a storm. 2 days later, Brian discovered what else I had signed. It happened at his lawyer's office. Eleanor called me first. Jessica, she said calmly, Brian's attorney contacted my office this morning. My stomach tightened. About what? The divorce filing, she said. And the trust. I sat down. What did he say? He said there must be a mistake. That your father's estate should be considered marital property. I let out a slow breath. And I told him there is no mistake, Eleanor said. And that if he continues, I'll be filing a motion for sanctions. She paused. He didn't take it well. I imagined Brian's face when Derek explained it to him. The confusion, the anger, the moment it finally clicked. Everything he thought he was entitled to was gone. Not half. Not a negotiation. Nothing. Later that afternoon, Brian called me for the first time since the funeral. I didn't answer. He texted,
"We need to talk. Now."
I waited an hour. Then I replied, "There's nothing to talk about." My phone rang immediately. I let it go to voicemail.
His voice was different now. Tight. Sharp.
"Jessica, this is serious. Your lawyer is claiming your dad's estate is off limits. That can't be right. We were married. You can't just hide assets." Hide assets. From the man who opened credit cards in my name, who cheated, who